Ricciardo's McLaren career appears to be coming to an end, with the team eager to replace him with Oscar Piastri following his struggles for speed and consistency. The Australian gambled by leaving Renault for the start of the 2021 season, but things did not go as planned. Despite winning at Monza last year, he has struggled to find any real form and has found it difficult to adapt to McLaren's tricky-to-drive cars. When compared to Norris, his results paints a bleak picture. The Brit has 70 points this season and has impressed even when the team has struggled. But Ricciardo is 51 points behind his teammate and has also been regularly outperformed in qualifying. Norris has frequently been asked about the Australian's plight, and he has previously attempted to offer solace, such as when he explained how difficult the MCL 36 is to drive. And when asked if he has been playing mind games with the former Red Bull star, he recently responded defensively. In what way? What mind games can I play? No, it's the opposite. I'm trying to help him as much as I can. It's for the benefit of us as a team to try and beat Alpine at the end of the day. He sees everything I see in terms of data and everything. I'm offering more help than I normally would, let's say. If you were fighting for a world championship, I'm saying more things than I would do just because that's what we need for the team. That's what I want for the team at the minute. No, it's the opposite of mind games, whatever that is. Mind soothing. Ricciardo has a contract with McLaren until the end of 2023, but it appears unlikely that he will stay for that long. The team wants to replace him with Oscar Piastri, although Alpine believes they have a valid contract to make the F2 driver their driver next season. Few expected things to turn out this way. Ricciardo's struggles last season were attributed to adjusting to a new car philosophy, which were eventually ironed out, leading to his Monza victory. Season 2 with McLaren should have cured it. Despite this, the struggles not only continued but intensified. So why has Ricciardo had such difficulty with McLaren's Formula 1 cars over the last 2 years? The key point to remember is that while the 2022 regulations heralded a technological overhaul for F1, they did not eliminate many of the characteristics of the McLaren car that made it so difficult to drive last year. The MCL 36, like the MCL 35M, excels in high-speed corners but struggles more in medium-speed ones. McLaren technical director James Key stated at the end of last year that the company wanted to attack the weaknesses and account for them with a clean slate, ensuring that there were no legacy built-in behaviours in a car like that. However, both Ricciardo and Norris encountered the same difficulties with the new car. In an interview ahead of the summer break, Ricciardo explained, "The regulations make the car feel different, but the DNA of the car is still very similar. Some of the things from last year which I struggled with, they are still in this car. It's something I think we're starting to understand better what it is. But obviously, I tried to describe it, but to really understand, is it aero, is it geometry, like, do you know what I mean? We are starting to understand better what it is, and Lando also does complain about it. I think he's just used to it." Norris, however, has also found it difficult to get to grips with the MCL 36 at times, forcing him to adjust his driving style. "I don't think you can probably in any way say the car is made around me. From what I want from the car, it's like the opposite of what it's giving me at the minute. And yeah, I would say the car I have now is completely not what I want for my driving style, and it's very unsuited for me. It's not a bad thing, it's just that is what it is, and you have to adapt to it. That's why I feel like I've done a reasonable job this year, adapting to something that is not what I want or like. That's one of the improvements I've made over the last few years." It highlights the distinction between Norris and Ricciardo this year. While Norris was able to adjust and work around the MCL 36's characteristics, Ricciardo has struggled to do so. He's always been a driver who thrived on total trust in the car, allowing him to be aggressive and throw it around or dive up the inside of his competitors. McLarens of the last 2 years have not given him the opportunity to do so. The recent weekend at the Hungaroring was another example of his difficult season, as McLaren used the same strategy for both drivers, with Lando Norris finishing 7th after starting 4th and the Australian finishing 15th from 9th. Team principal Andreas Seidel admitted that the team needed to understand what went wrong after reassessing the dramatic differences between his two drivers. "We scored important points, obviously for our battle in the Constructors' Championship battle with Alpine, but of course we need to understand why on Daniel's side, with exactly the same strategy, we were falling off so much with the hard tyres in the final stint, which put Daniel out of the points. That's what we need to analyse together with Daniel." Nonetheless, it appears that plans are already in place to replace Ricciardo with Oscar Piastri, but there is one problem. According to reports, Ricciardo is the only party with the authority to terminate his contract, putting McLaren in a difficult position. situation. According to the report, Ricciardo has asked for a fee of more than £12 million to leave the team. If both parties reach an agreement, the final fee is expected to be lower, but Ricciardo will still earn millions from stepping aside to allow Piastri to race alongside Lando Norris. And even if he does end up leaving the Woking outfit, his F1 future is likely to be secure, with several teams eager to snap him up. In recent weeks, at least 4 teams have reportedly made contact with the Australian to ascertain his intentions. Alpine is believed to be one of them, and they would consider bringing Ricciardo back into the fold if they lost Piastri to McLaren. Otmar Zafnauer, Alpine team principal, discussed the possibility. I mean, if you look at Fernando, for example, he comes and goes, and I think that happens to other drivers too. And I don't think that's an issue at all. I think what we need to focus on is, like I say, the plans that we have for our next 8 or 9 races. We've got to make sure that we complement the plan with the best driver that we can. And there are some options out there for us, and we put the best driver in next to Esteban so that we can move forwards towards what we've been planning. As for Piastri, his case is set to go to court, with both teams confident that they have a valid contract with the racer. If Alpine can demonstrate that they have the right to promote their reserve to a race seat next year, McLaren may be on the hook for another sizable payout if Piastri decides to breach the agreement. Alpine sees Ricciardo as the obvious replacement for Piastri, and the two have a history. It was a shock comparable to Fernando Alonso's move to Aston Martin, when Ricciardo turned down a deal to stay at race-winning Red Bull to lead the Renault project for 2019. It was no secret that he was in talks with Renault, but he was expected to stay at Red Bull. Renault scored a huge victory. It was on its way to finishing 4th in the Constructors' Championship, won the midfield battle, and had serious hopes of closing the gap to the top 3 the following year. It had a driver in Ricciardo who was in his 5th season with a top team and had 7 wins under his belt. Renault was willing to spend a lot of money, a guaranteed $25 million per year, with some huge, if fanciful, bonuses to get a bankable commodity. However, driver values can rise as well as fall. Ricciardo has been a busted flush at McLaren. He has a contract for next year, and he controls the break clause. So, after struggling since joining the team in 21, the question is whether he believes a change of team will bring back the old Ricciardo. Alpine would undoubtedly get a perfectly serviceable driver if it signed Ricciardo. He's doing okay at McLaren, and even in his weakened state, he's a reliable driver. But that is not what Alpine wants, at least according to Otmar Zafnauer. In the short term, we have to replace Fernando with the absolute best driver. But what we mustn't forget is that we have a 100 race plan to start winning races and vying for a championship. We're over 10 races into that, so we have got 80 some races to do that. So the choice for us has to be one that complements that goal. So that driver that sits next to Esteban Ocon has to be the best choice for us that complements and helps us attain that goal. The requirements are unambiguous. Ricciardo could have been the best driver available in the past, but whether or not it is still true today is a gamble. Will Alpine be willing to take that risk? It's still unclear. On paper, Ricciardo remains the best of a limited number of options if Alpine's first choice fails to materialise. However, signing him would rely on the Australian gaining his brilliant form, which is far from guaranteed. But what do you think? Will Daniel Ricciardo make the decision to give McLaren what they want and leave the team? If that's the case, where will he go? And is Alpine willing to take the risk of signing him? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell button to be notified of future videos.